Alrighty. Alrighty, welcome everyone. My name is Noah and welcome to the Morning Quarterbacks. Today, my other co-host is
Yeah. So I'm Mark, and I think we are. Are we the morning quarterbacks or the Monday morning quarterbacks?
what did I say?
I think you said morning quarterbacks,
What are
or maybe you
the
said Monday quarterbacks. It's still getting off the ground.
Yeah, we're the Monday morning quarterbacks. We have
There we go.
never played football ever before.
Hey, I had some experience in middle school. Come on
Oh
now.
yeah, you were a kicker, right?
Dude, I was a kicker. I was a cornerback, a receiver. I played three phases of the game.
Oh, so you know special teams, defense, and offense.
Yeah, yeah. So I bring that unique middle school perspective to all the analysis.
Okay, I mean, more than I have. The only other thing I did was baseball and one match of soccer that we lost like 6-2 in those rec league.
That's
So
that's fair. But we are master Madden rebuilders.
oh
Um,
yes,
we dabble in the fantasy world as well. So it's just it's interesting, right? We both love sports so much. It's just so much fun to talk about it.
and we think we know what we're talking about as well. We
Yeah,
think our opinion
sometimes.
is right.
Yeah, for sure. We always love to hear when it's not as well. Um, you know, we always like to give our take on things, even if those takes are a little spicy.
Yes, and I am a hot taker.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've got some outlandish takes, but you got to have them sometime because sometimes that's just the future. That's just what it is.
That's just how it goes.
Well, today we are going to be talking about we're the Monday morning quarterbacks, so we're going to be talking about quarterback contracts. Um, this morning, Trevor Lawrence just signed his big deal. Was it 5 years or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was a 5 year, $275 million quarterback, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a huge deal. He is now with Joe Burrow on the 55 million a year, which is crazy amount of money.
Which is insane. Yeah.
I mean, and he's only 25. He is quite young, but on a team that should have made the playoffs last year but didn't. So the Jaguars are always like a team where you're like, what are they doing? Like, uh, they beat the they beat the Texans 2 years ago in the wild card game, and then didn't even make the playoffs this year. What's going on?
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about the Jaguars. I have zero faith in them.
Really, zero faith, none.
Yeah, none. I mean, look at the division that they're in, right? You're telling me you've got a division that's got the Jaguars, the Colts, the Texans, and who's the other AFC South team? Mm, Jaguars, Colts, Texans, and let's just take a look here.
The Titans.
Which one am I missing? Oh, the Titans. Yeah, well, the Titans are kind of a shit show, if you will.
Well, the Titans are not going to be good this year.
Yeah, I think that remains to be seen. I agree with you. I don't think that they have their quarterback figured out, which is why I ultimately don't think that they'll, be any good. They did spend a lot of money in free agency, though.
Well, on a running back that just barely hit 1,000 yards, and to remind everyone, if you don't, obviously nobody knows who we are, but we are huge Cowboy fans. While
Yes,
we while we
huge
while
Cowboy
we
fans.
are while we are football fans, we are huge Cowboy fans.
But we're also realistic Cowboys fans. We're not delusional like some Cowboys
Yeah,
fans
yeah.
are.
I'll throw up a little image right here while I'm talking about. It's a image I actually sent to Mark this morning about it showed the last 50 starts of Patrick Mahomes and Dak Prescott, and it showed that Mahomes' wins are more, but their passing touchdowns are the same. Mahomes actually has one more interception, but Dak's passing rating is about 2 points higher. Same thing as his yards attempt. It's only zero point 0.1, and his completion is about 2% better. But who the
Yeah, and,
hell
and what was
cares about
yeah,
any of that when
exactly.
you've won what? Oh,
One
Dak
play,
calls these.
two playoff games,
Yeah, Dak
two
calls
playoff
the
games.
Dak
Yeah,
has all these cool numbers, right? Dak, like we were saying, Dak has what, two playoff wins. Mahomes has what, two Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And
Who
I think
cares about
I
playoffs?
and I think so that everybody knows we are a little bit different too in the Dak conversation. I tend to lean a little bit more to really liking Dak, and Noah, I think tends to want to maybe find another quarterback. With that being said, I still think those are valid stats, right? Like I don't really at this point care what you do in the regular season anymore. What happens when it matters? And also that's true for the Cowboys in general, not just Dak. But we know that we know wins and losses are a team stat, but at the same time, since we're talking quarterbacks, we kind of have to go there.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
so what I was saying, so yeah, so you've got the Jaguars that are in a division with the Texans, the Colts, and the Titans. So the Titans, undoubtedly, they got better, right? They got better. Now, how much better remains to be seen, right? But their team overall is better.
Absolutely.
Last year, there's 6-11. Obviously, didn't make the playoffs, didn't even come close. The Colts last year 9-8 without Anthony Richardson,
Mm-hmm.
9-8 without their starting quarterback for most of the year. I think the Colts they might go crazy this year. Full year
I
Jonathan Taylor being healthy, full year hopefully of Anthony Richardson.
I know
Um,
I completely agree. Yeah, I mean, with having a running back like Jonathan Taylor, from the passing game and running game, it really develops both. But I
mhm.
think the dark horse in the NFL, in me, and I think we agree on this, is going to be the Texans.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. We haven't even gotten to the what I think is going to be the powerhouse of that division, which is the Texans.
Yeah,
Um,
you've got a rookie quarterback. Well, not a rookie anymore, but you've got a quarterback who came off a great quarterback season. You now
mhm.
have a receiver who has experience, and I mean,
You have a three-headed monster at receiver now if you include Tank Dell.
yeah, so you have Diggs, you have Collins, and you have Dell. Yeah, and then you
Mhm.
have Schultz, who on the Cowboys did put up some good numbers.
And you have a very good, experienced running back in Joe Mixon.
Yeah,
Don't forget they
yeah,
also signed him.
and you have Pierce as well, who will be a good second, a 1-2 punch
See, I think
basically.
second option for
Yeah,
sure. So that's my thing. Going back to my original point, saying I just don't have any faith. I have no faith in the Jaguars this year. I'm pretty sure, unless there's some things I've missed, actually got worse this year. Right? They're going into the season with their number one wide receiver option being Christian Kirk. Um, probably realistically Ingram, right? But I mean, let's be honest here. They still have Travis Etienne, who they always want to say. They always say they want to reduce his workload, but hasn't happened yet.
hmm
Um, so I just I don't know. Yeah, I don't have any faith. It would not surprise me. Oh, and I pulled up the standings here. Jacksonville and the Colts both finished 9-8 last year.
yeah,
So Jacksonville finished 9-8 with their full team last year. Indianapolis finished 9-8 with their backup running back playing half the year and their backup quarterback playing for most of the year.
right, right.
Yeah, I just it wouldn't surprise me if Jacksonville finished, third in that division.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that, but I mean, and to be fair, good on Lawrence on getting paid.
Oh
I
yeah,
think he
100%.
deserved it, but yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the Texans will be fourth. I think that's undoubtedly. I think the Texans will.
Fourth? Wait,
Sorry,
wait. The
sorry. I
Titans
think
will
the
be fourth.
Who I don't know who I said. I think the Titans will be fourth. I
Yes,
think
yeah.
the Jaguars will be third. And yeah,
Mhm,
I think with Anthony Richardson back and healthy and
mhm.
Jonathan Taylor, I do think they'll be second. Fighting for first. Although I do think the Texans will just take it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Texans are going to be one of the classes of the AFC. But I think that really brought an interesting conversation for us to have, which was paying Lawrence the money, right? Like you said, Noah, you they almost had to, right?
Yeah,
Like you have to pay Lawrence that kind of money. Um, we know, even though we are self-proclaimed Monday morning quarterbacks, we understand that when quarterbacks get paid, right, it's not necessarily about who deserves the most as much as it's when someone is up to be paid, right?
yeah.
But I think if you just look at this landscape of who has the most money on their contracts,
Mhm.
frankly, it's a little bit absurd if we're being honest. If we look at some of these top players, if we went down this list of top players, how many of them do you think would be above where they would be ranked in terms of skill?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, So, I mean, that's something I think would be interesting to do here if we look at this. So, like, leading the way, you've got Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, both making the same amount of a total value contract. Now, I think Burrow has a little bit more total guaranteed, um, fully guaranteed, but at the same time, they're both sitting at $55 million contracts a year.
Right.
Um, Top of the list. I don't know about you, but neither of those would be my choice for the number one quarterback in the league.
No, 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 not at all. I mean, Burrow did go to the Super Bowl, although
Hmm.
unfortunately did lose. But no, I don't think if I'm having my number one quarterback, I don't think it's going to be Lawrence or Burrow. I mean, I think we all know who it should be.
Yeah, I
If
mean, and I agree with you. I think I agree with what you're about to say. But my thing, I think my hot take, I might have Burrow top five. I think
mm,
I don't know that I would have Lawrence top 10.
really,
I I don't know. I'm looking at some of the names on this list. So I think what you were about to say that we would both agree with is that Patrick Mahomes would deserve to be number
absolutely,
one, right?
yeah.
Um, and so I think another interesting aspect of this that we should look into, if you're interested in a little bit, is timing of things, right? Like I do kind of want to look into that,
Mhm.
but we can get there in a minute. Because if we keep going down this list, I mean, number three is Jared Goff at 53 million a year.
And I think he deserves that money. He put up a really good year,
Hmm.
and I think the Lions are going to be a tough team to beat. Like either I think they're going to make the playoffs again. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run, if not Super Bowl.
100%.
But
But is Jared Goff in your top three of quarterbacks in the league,
mm, well, no, because like two names below, like Jackson. I don't think he's better at quarterback than Lamar or Mahomes.
or Josh
So
Allen?
or
I mean, I
Josh.
think there's
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's some of these. So like, I just okay. So if we're talking about skill level, I don't agree with the top three. Go to four is Justin Herbert. I'm a I'm a hot take Justin Herbert guy. I don't know that I have Justin Herbert top 10.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, everybody has hyped the Chargers up so much,
Hmm.
and they have done what? I mean,
Nothing.
genuinely, what have they done?
Nothing. Here's the thing. If if Justin Herbert, okay, if you took the Cowboys and the Chargers and you switched their locations, so you had the Dallas Chargers and the Los Angeles Cowboys,
Mhm.
I think that Chargers team would get just as much, if not more, flack than the Cowboys are.
You think so?
For sure. I overhyped. I think about last year, how the last few years, how talented their roster has been. They have had immense talent on those teams and done nothing with it. And I think, if I remember correctly, aren't the Chargers the one that blew that huge lead to the Jaguars? All that being said, Justin Herbert, I don't think has a playoff win. Trevor Lawrence has one playoff win, and I believe that one playoff win is against Justin Herbert's Chargers, where they gave up like a 20-something point lead, right?
I think so, yeah. And I think in that game, Lawrence threw like what 4 interceptions or something, and still won.
Something like that.
I think if you give over 2 turnovers, I think uh, you just have a like it's
Oh,
just unlucky
yep,
loss or an unlucky win at that point.
yep. Four touchdowns, four interceptions that
Yeah,
game.
it's
And I don't quite have the score here in front of me, but Lawrence did not have a great game.
but still
Um,
won. And
Still won
Herbert is once again put on a pedestal for what?
31-30, 31-30. Yep.
Yeah,
LA jumped out to a 27-point lead and lost. Again, we know that's not all on the quarterback, but at some point you have to translate your talent to wins, right? So Justin Herbert, I like the idea of him, but what he's actually put on the field, I just I don't know. He just can't. I can't justify him being top five. Again, he's the fourth highest paid quarterback on this list at $52.5 million a year.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And
yeah.
fifth is Jackson.
Hmm.
I'd put him in my top three. I'd put
Yeah.
Lamar in my top three, and he's
100%.
top what
He's
five?
he's surely in my top five.
Yeah,
I would probably put him top three as well. Um, I think that he might potentially have some injury concerns. At the same time, I think of all those people, in my opinion, I think Lamar does so much more for his team
mhm,
than those other people. Now, maybe to argue against myself, I think Justin Herbert does bring a lot of value to his team, right? But I don't think it's anywhere near what Lamar brings to his team.
Well, yeah, what Lamar brings. I agree. Yeah. No, I completely
Yeah.
agree. But having a mobile quarterback is always that iffy
Yes.
because you run the ball with him and he is a quarterback, so he's not supposed to be all big and buff. And there's just a big injury risk now. With injury, with high risk comes high reward. What are you gonna? Are you going to take that risk? I think that's a question that the Ravens should be asking, especially with signing Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it's very true. I do think that I think that Ravens team is excellent. I think they're poised to make a nice run into the AFC playoffs as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so then 6 on this list, you've got Jalen Hurts. I'll be honest, I don't know how much commentary we should give on Jalen Hurts, being that we are going to be biased being Cowboys fans. I do I think he's good? Yes. Um, I don't know that he's the best quarterback in that division. I do think he's good. I'd probably have Jalen in my top 10.
I would
Um,
agree.
but sixth most at $51 million. That's a lot. That's a lot of money for a quarterback.
I
Um,
like we said about being biased. I mean, as as much of a Dak Prescott hater I am, I do think Dak is a better quarterback than Hurts. But
mhm, I agree.
yeah, I hate
I think
both
he's a
of
better
them.
leader. I think he's a better leader than Hurts too. Like those intangibles kind of.
Yeah,
Even though I will say I do really like Jalen Hurts as a person. He's always gotten better. He's always strived to do better. He's a great character, great person. Same thing with Dak. I've just I edge towards Dak in that regard. Again, that's probably the Cowboys fan in me, but still.
right. No, yeah, I would agree. But and then we go to Murray. He
Mhm,
was
mhm.
out all last year for an ACL injury. Is that what it was?
Well, it wasn't all last year, but the start of last year.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I
so
mean,
he
he came back to the point where the Cardinals were almost mathematically
100%, 100% correct.
So
And interesting here, I think that this is the first real tier down in contracts too. If you look at average per year, right, those top 6 are all between 55 and 51 million.
mhm.
Kyler starts out at 46.1 million per year, so definitely a good tier down, right? You're talking almost $5 million per year down. So interesting, but yeah, I think to me I feel like that's probably just right for Kyler.
Yeah.
That's my take.
Now, do you think it should be like some sort of injury clause should be in there with him being as
Nah,
short as he is and maybe not having that? You don't think so?
nah. No, I don't think so. I mean, if you're gonna make that argument, I think we should make the same one for Lamar and Joe Burrow. Frankly, I think Joe Burrow's the highest paid and probably has the most extensive injury history on this list that we've gone over.
That's fair. That's fair.
So, yeah,
Um,
I think that again, when we talk about what a player brings to their team, I think that Kyler's asked to do so much for his team. I put him just below, but I still put him in the Lamar tier of what he does for his team.
yeah. What like the sort of offense that he can bring?
Yeah, I mean, like think about his offensive weapons, right? Like before Marvin Harrison Jr., which we don't know how that's going to look. I'm assuming it's going to work out just fine, right? But James Conner, uh, great back, but at the same time, I mean, nothing crazy.
Right.
Um, what receivers has
I
he
mean,
played with?
he had Hopkins.
He did have D Hop,
Yeah, and when he was on the field,
and
they
they
were
went,
crazy. I mean,
yeah, they were insane.
there's that whole meme, throw it up, F
Yeah,
throw
D
it
Hop,
up.
D Hop's got to be there somewhere,
Yeah.
right? Um, but like, I think that's you've got a real alpha wide receiver one for Kyler Murray there with D Hop. I'll give you that. I honestly forgot about that.
Mhm.
Um, but the amount of just scrambling, buying time, right? Like he seems like he's always under duress, but he can always get out of it. I just feel like he does so much for that offense.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you think that scrambling is because of the alignment, like the O line's fault? I mean,
Ye-
I think a lot of these teams like what you were saying about that kind of tier of paying off because like what you said from Hurts to Murray is $5 million. Do you think quarterbacks should be taking less money to invest into another position?
Yeah, so I want to get there once we start talking about the timing of when people get paid because I agree and disagree. Like there's two sides to that coin, right? I think that these what I really want to get at is I think that these numbers are getting so crazy that it's going to be tough to put that kind of a team around you. Which is why I think that we see kind of that trend of Super Bowl winners for a little bit being quarterbacks on their rookie deals, right? Really good quarterbacks on their rookie deals.
Right.
Because that way you have the money to put the team around them.
Hmm.
I just looked it up, by the way. According to PFF, the Cardinals. It says here that the Cardinals O line was ranked 28th.
Hmm.
So
So,
last year, yeah. So I think it has a direct result there.
and
Oh,
I think the Cardinals just going to back to the whole, how we were talking about the AFC South. I think the AFC West or NFC West
NFC
is
West, yeah.
somewhat of a tough competition. I mean, you have the 49ers. We all know they're
Hmm.
good. And you
Yeah,
have the Rams, which I mean, 2 years ago, 3 years, 4 years ago, they won the Super Bowl.
yeah.
And I feel like the
Yep.
Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are going to have a major. They're going to hit a major wall this year, in my
I
opinion.
yeah, I agree. I think
Do you
we go back
know?
to what we talked about. Yeah, with the Titans, I don't think they have their quarterback
Yeah,
situation
yeah.
figured out.
I don't know.
Um, yeah. So next, I spent a lot of time there on Kyler. Deshaun Watson at 46 mil. Talk about a discount that they got last year, getting some wins with Joe Flacco for nothing, huh?
Yep. No, and Watson's such a quarterback where, well, before his allegations happened, you almost wanted him to win. Like you almost rooted for him, and then he sat
Mhm.
out in the sat out at Houston,
And he hasn't been
and
the same. He hasn't been the
he
same since.
no, he hasn't. And I think because in his senior year or his last year in college, right? He had like an ACL injury or something.
Hmm.
Our injuries is some, which I think we're seeing that now because he, couldn't play almost a little bit of the season. I mean, more than half the season, I think, right? Or at least half.
Yeah, I think more than half, or right about half. Yeah.
It's just kind of at 29, this is kind of when you're coming into your peak as a quarterback, I would say, or close
Oh yeah.
to it.
For sure. And to still have so much guaranteed money. I mean,
And
it, it's it's crazy.
I think the Browns are in somewhat of a tough division too. You have Baltimore, and then you have Cincinnati. If they could figure it out, if they
And the
could figure that out.
Steelers. I mean, the Steelers are always going to play you tough. So yeah, they're in that vaunted AFC North.
Yeah, right. And
So just again, I think whatever we are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we're 8 quarterbacks in. Of the 8 highest paid quarterbacks, probably the only ones that I agree are actually top 8 quarterbacks. Is maybe 3 or 4 of them.
yeah,
So, to be honest, this next one we're going to get to, I actually think this next one is, I think, ranked pretty fairly, in my opinion. Um,
really.
maybe a hot take.
Okay,
Um, but next on the list is Kirk Cousins.
okay.
Right, 36-year-old Kirk Cousins making 45 mil a year. This is
Coming off an injury.
well, that's fair. Then so for my analysis, I'm kind of throwing that out and assuming we're getting you know the same Kirk Cousins, maybe going to keep taking, probably falling a little bit in terms of his trajectory.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins being what the ninth highest paid quarterback in the league, that feels right. It
I
feels like it tracks.
well, he's always been that quarterback that can put up numbers but
Uh-huh.
cannot win games. It feels like.
Dak Prescott.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
and it, and
yeah.
it, and it go. Although, listen, I think the Falcons they got a new head coach, right?
Yes, yeah, they did.
So hopefully they're not gonna have an imbecile because they've got
Because
arguably
they did.
they've got arguably one of the best running backs.
Hmm.
If not this year, in the next 3 years he will be.
For
They've
sure.
got and in college he was hyped up, and I don't think it's his fault. They have Kyle Pitts. I think he's
Hmm.
a great tight end, but once again, you just, I mean, you have a Ferrari, but you don't have an engine in it. And
Right.
and I think the receivers, what Drake London, I think he's a great
Drake
receiver,
London. Hmm.
but I just don't think they've had that mastermind offensive person, a head coach, to sort of push him. And I think with Kirk Cousins, you're going to get some of those big numbers he had. Now, will he win those big games? Like, will he not? I think the Falcons could be a really good team this year,
Mm-hmm.
especially in that division they're in.
That
I mean,
awful
the
division.
only team that they're somewhat that they have to compete with is the
Uh,
Buccaneers.
yeah,
I think the
yeah.
Buccaneers are a good team, but I think if you get like if you get Kirk Cousins like he was a year ago with
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson, I think you're gonna have a good team. I think you're gonna have a really good team. Once again, a crazy tight end weapon,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yep. A true someone that has the potential to be a true number one,
yeah,
your true number one running back. Yeah, no, I like the Falcons this year.
and I
Again, I think a lot of that's dependent on Kirko, but yeah.
and me thinking with my GM mind, right? Obviously, you want to give him more weapons, but you also want to think about the future, right? So them
Hmm.
drafting that quarterback in the first
Michael
round,
Penix, yeah,
like
Michael Penix.
was it a bad idea? Like it was probably a bad idea for the now, but for the future, I mean, he's going to be sitting for a year. And what if Kurt gets injured? I mean,
But what if he's not the same after his Achilles? Michael Penix might not be sitting long.
exactly. So everybody, and I've seen that the Falcons, it was a terrible pick for them because they just signed this quarterback to a big deal, yada yada yada, right? But like we
Hmm.
said, what if he's not the same after his injury? And what if he's not? What if he just regresses super quickly? And then you
Yeah.
throw this rookie in. Now you've got an extremely young team.
Agreed. And you know what's crazy? I was looking this up. I don't know if you heard me typing while you were talking. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was looking up, so you've got Kirk Cousins, right? He's making $45 million a year for their quarterback. Michael Penix, granted, he's a rookie. He actually has yet to sign, by the way, but his deal looks like it'll be somewhere around a rookie deal for 4 years, $22.8 million. So quick math, let's just call that 6 million. It's really 5.5 million a year, right? For so with Kirk Cousins at 45, that 5.5 for Michael Penix. So for about $50 million, they have Kirk Cousins and potentially their future. Um, which still puts them below just Jalen Hurts money. You know what I mean? Like they have their now and their future
Yeah, yeah, and
for less than some people have just their starter signed.
right. I think that's me thinking with my GM brain. I think the Falcons did a smart move there. While it doesn't
Yeah.
look, not flashy at all. It's quite boring actually. But I think that's how you build a dynasty. That's how you build a winning culture. Is like that.
I agree. Yeah, no, like I said, I really like where Kirko falls on this list.
Mhm.
I think it makes sense.
Yep.
Next up, we can kind of maybe rapid fire through some of these other ones because I think we're going to be in a lot of agreement here. Next up, which is 10, you have Patrick Mahomes.
It should be number
Obviously,
one. I mean,
should be number one. Obviously, signed that massive deal in
yeah.
terms of total value at $450 million. His is going to be number one. But in terms of the average per year, it's only a 45 mil, right? Which brings us down a good 10 million per year.
Mm-hmm.
Below Joe Burrow, Josh Allen also at $43 million per year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you want to talk about quarterbacks that do more for their team. I don't think you're going to find quarterbacks that do more for their team than Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, so I know there's probably not much to say. I think for me, those two should be one and two. Um, I it it's nice to see them taking a little bit of a quote unquote pay cut.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
to be able to put whatever their team around them. And again, we'll get to that in a second because I have some other stuff pulled up that I want to talk about with that. But then, so again, I think we agree on that. Now, Matt Stafford next up at 40 mil a year. How do you feel about that?
Well, being 36,
Yeah,
I mean, when they traded him, they obviously won the Super Bowl that they got him. I just I don't I don't know. Because I feel like a year ago, at this
hmm
time a year ago, like it was questioning on whether he was going to play football again, wasn't it? I mean, he was coming
yeah.
back from his injury, and I mean, it was
It
kind
was
of
like a
up in
neck injury or something, right?
yeah,
If I
it was
remember.
kind of
Yeah.
up in the air, and I
Well,
don't think the Rams were very good this year, if I remember correctly.
I don't
I
think
mean,
they
they
were
they were
either.
second. They were
What was their
they were
record
they were
though?
10-7.
Huh?
So
Yeah. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, would have been wrong. Now, granted, they had the absolute breakout of both Kyron Williams and Puka Nacua. Um,
Right.
but they're Aaron Donald retired this offseason. I mean, they're it's going to be a different team, right?
Yeah, completely.
Um, I it's just interesting that he's 40 million a year, and he's not a free agent until 2027. So it seems like they still have what 3 years left on that.
And
Um,
he's
he's
not Tom Brady. I mean,
he's 36 and had some serious injuries. Again, I guess same argument could be made for Kirk Cousins, but um, yeah. Yeah, and then and actually, so to be fair, all in the same tier. You've got Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, and Daniel Jones. Now, look, I understand that I'm a biased Cowboys fan, but Daniel Jones, um, no shot should he be making the same money as those two.
no, the fact that he's making more money than Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the fact that he's making a little less money than Josh Allen and Mahomes by 3 and 5 million. I
Yeah,
think Daniel Jones' agent needs to be in the Hall of Fame of
yeah,
of
yep,
scammers
of agent,
because
yeah, 100%.
holy moly.
Yeah,
Now, once again, I do agree with Mark. I think it could be the bias of being a giant,
I don't think it is. I think the stats back it up.
but what if he didn't get injured halfway through the season or a little bit in the early of the season? Who could he have turned it around? Maybe, probably not. But they were atrocious at the beginning of the season. I
Terrible.
mean, yeah, I mean, bad. And I
Yeah.
do give him props though for when we Monday Night Football week 1. It was 40-0, and he kept going back. He kept going back out there. I mean, there was like eight
Oh,
minutes left on the
yeah.
fourth. He kept going. I mean,
Hmm.
not a very smart move for his health and mental, but as a leader, great. Great decision. As a looking at like what you said stats, yeah, no, I 40
Yeah.
million. No,
No way.
The Giants are just gonna have to eat that contract up and
Yeah.
just suffer for the next year or two.
Yeah. Great job fleecing the Giants, Daniel
Yes.
Jones. So if there's others that you want to talk about, no, I'll let you call them out after we talk about Aaron Rodgers here. Because Aaron Rodgers is really where I want to focus.
Okay.
Um, 41 years old. We know he's old. Obviously going to be taking some smaller term deals similar to what Brady did.
Mhm.
$37.5 million. Again, that feels right, depending on how he comes back from his injury, obviously. But Aaron Rodgers for $37.5 million feels like a steal.
I completely agree. But I do have to say this: he's in the same pay category as Derek Carr, and
Mhm.
I mean,
Yeah,
Derek Carr might have been good for a year in Oakland when they made the playoffs and he got injured and couldn't even play in his own playoff game. I just I just don't think I think Baker Mayfield just got paid, and I think he should be more up there. I mean, I think Baker had a
yeah.
good year.
So yeah, so to your point, right? Just some other names to call out on this list was, you called out Derek Carr, Baker Mayfield at 33.33 million a year. Great signing, I think, for the Bucks.
Yeah.
Do I think Baker's that guy? No. Do I like Baker for $33 million? Absolutely.
Hmm.
You know, really, honestly, the one on here that I do want to call out before we start to get into the rookies and some of the backups and things like that, Jordan Love. The Packers have Jordan Love on a contract. Granted, it runs out after this year for $13.5 million.
Yep. Yeah.
That is insane value.
Yep. And I like what you mentioned before about these teams you making it to the playoffs or making it to the Super Bowl with such a low. And actually, we'll have to get to the like Mr. Irrelevant eventually because I mean
Yep, yep.
he's
That's
also
that's
down
kind of where I'm.
below.
That's kind of where I'm going.
But
Yeah, with my point.
anyways, yeah. So Jordan Love, 13.5 million. The amount of weapons that you can put next to him are, I mean, immaculate. I mean, that's why you have teams like the Seattle Seahawks when they had Wilson. You had the Legion of Boom, and then you had some offensive weapons to give him as well.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
we didn't really talk about Dak, and because he's going to get, there's contracts, there's contract talks about him getting paid,
Hmm.
and I think as much as I don't like him, he's probably going to get like a 60 or 55 million or $50 million deal. And
Yeah.
as I'm looking at this list, I am okay with that. I I'm okay with that because I think Jordan Love will see that deal because okay, well, hold on. Backtrack, right? Trevor Lawrence just signed that 55 million dollar a year deal, right?
Right.
Dak, in my opinion, maybe not light years, but he definitely is a way better quarterback than Lawrence.
I agree.
So
100%.
so whenever I mean, this
You have
logistically,
to. You have to ask for
you
more.
have to make more money.
Yeah.
And I
And
think it's fair. I think you should demand more because even though
and
he has
see,
2 playoff wins, he's a way better quarterback than Lawrence.
for sure. And see, this is kind of what so this is where I was really getting at, right? You mentioned Brock Purdy. We're talking about Dak. So what I did, I just pulled a couple of things up real quick. So I just kind of want to get your thoughts on it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So next year, the salary cap for the league is going to be $255.4 million. Let's just call it $255 million to make the math easy, right?
Yep.
Trevor Lawrence is going to take up 21.5% of the cap.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For one player, one contract, 1 year, right?
Right.
And it's going to be like this for the next 5 years because it looks like they don't have an out till 6 years, 3031 or 2031. Sorry. Um, here's why I bring that up because you got to put players around these people. In other words, Patrick Mahomes has shown he can do it with you could throw farmers out there and he's going to do his best to win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah. And
Um,
he's gonna
but
win. I mean,
but Trevor Lawrence, in similar vein as Dak, needs weapons around him,
yep.
right? So I looked this up. I looked up who do you think, if you had to take just a wild guess, who do you think is the number 10 rated wide receiver in the league? And this is by PFF.
Number 10 rated receiver.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah. Think
wow.
about who's
Uh,
a great receiver, the number one on their team, but also maybe not light shining on them.
I would say London, Drake London
Okay, and I think that's a fair guess. So
or
number 10
Tank
according to
Dell.
PFF is actually Debo Samuel.
Okay.
Um, and I think it makes sense. Debo Samuel, his contract is $23.8 million a year. Let's call that $24 million a year,
Mhm.
right? The reason that I like Jordan Love's contract so much, or even you know what, let's even go up to Baker. To have Baker Mayfield plus Debo Samuel, I'm getting an average hit against my cap per year that's right in line with what Trevor Lawrence is getting.
And that's for a great combo. I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
in my opinion, I like Baker, so a
That's
stud
for your
quarterback.
one-two punch.
Yeah, absolutely. No,
Um,
absolutely.
and so I think when we start thinking about things like that, we really got to think about who we're giving these pieces of the pie to, right? And so I totally get all of the hype that people have for Brock Purdy. In my opinion, I think he's a little bit overrated, but I do think he's good. I think he would fall in my top 10, maybe right at 10, somewhere in that range, right? Obviously, the value that they have him for under $1 million for a cap hit is insane. But what's going to happen when he's up here and
Yeah,
making
because
say $50 million a year? If
he's
he's
gonna
making
ask for it.
50, yeah, yeah. If he's making $50 million a year, think about, they have Debo, Ayuk, CMC, that entire defense, right? They have Bosa on defense. That's four guys I just gave you. Take at least two of them out, maybe three.
Yep. Because I completely agree. And
Is
Purdy is gonna ask for his money, and like what you were
And he
saying,
should get his money.
what
He should.
who are you gonna cut? Are you gonna cut the running back, or are you gonna cut the receiver, or are you gonna the whole phrase is defensive wins championships. Well, you know, do people still believe that? I
Yeah.
mean, I think I think these players should obviously you want the best for yourself, obviously. But when it comes to winning, what are you going to do? Are you going to sign that 55 or maybe break a new record, be 60 million a year? And yeah, you got your money, but um, you're one and done in the playoffs because you don't have a defense to surround you with, or you don't have an O line to help you block. I think I think that's the whole. That's I think that's what you're getting at with the with what's happening.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think again, if you look at the tiers, because there are tiers to this, Lamar Jackson, I'm comfortable paying him that much money because he can do it with whoever you put around him. Does he need help? Of course, everybody needs help. But what I'm saying is that he can get it done with less, I think, than Dak does because of what he means to his team,
Mhm.
right? Josh Allen, I'm comfortable giving him that kind of money. Patrick Mahomes, comfortable because they can do it without as much around them. But even look where they are. They're not even in the top.
No.
And so they're still able to have a quite a um, uh, competitive, team around them. Um, but they can also do it, with less than other people.
Yeah, I I completely agree, and I think we'll have to see that with Dak. As us as Cowboys fans, because
Uh-huh.
CD is now not showing up to the OTAs like the optional ones.
Yeah.
Are we gonna have to? Obviously, CD was arguably one of the best receivers in the league last year. Are
Hmm.
you? I mean, what's? I mean, you're gonna sign these two, the quarterback, and you're gonna sign CD. Well, what money do we have left now?
Yeah.
That's And then don't even get me started on running back position. I mean,
Oh
but
yeah.
but we'll save that for another topic or another day.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other part I was really interested in looking at, which is kind of hard for me to find it, but I was trying to look up, the order that the last quarterbacks have been signed. Um, and the reason I wanted to do that is because I'm just trying to look. So, and by the way, I think that even though I can't find this, I think that there's similar arguments that can be made with Dak, with Tua, right? Tua's about to get the bag. Um,
Oh yes.
but should he? Should he make that much money? And again, if we're looking at the last few quarterbacks to be signed, and again, when Dak signed his contract, what was that, 4 years ago, or was it
Yeah,
3 years
I
ago?
think it was year 3 or 4.
Yeah, when he signed that, however many years ago, everybody thought it was a terrible deal because it was going to make him the highest paid quarterback, and he clearly wasn't number one, and da da da. Obviously, all this stacking down, you know, Dak having the, what is this, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, the 13th best contract, or the 13th highest contract going into next year. Yeah, as a Cowboys fan, I'm fine with that.
Right.
Right, that sounds great. Now, once everything gets reset, because the Cowboys have taken so long to re-sign him, that number's going to jump way up.
Yeah.
So even if you just start to look at the top quarterbacks, starting with Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts at 51 million, and then everybody above that. You know, if the Cowboys could have got a deal done with Dak before Jalen Hurts signed, you can have him somewhere from 46 mil a year to 50 million a year, and you're still kind of saving money, right?
Yeah.
That's an extra 5 to 6 mil that are back on your books to be able to give to other players. And this has nothing to do with the contract that's given to the player, just the timing is all I'm talking about, right?
Mhm.
Um, similar, once Trevor Lawrence signed for 55 million, hey, now Tua's more expensive, right? This all starts to add up. When Jared Goff signed, he was 53 mil. It had the Lions signed him before Justin Herbert, he might have only been 51 mil, right? So I think there's part of a timing game to it, right?
So you should get a deal done as quick as possible.
Yeah, I think you should get it. I think if you know that's your dude, right? I think you got to get a deal done as fast as possible. Now, I think the balance in the conversation that we've been having is you have to know what you're going to justify or what you're going to classify as that dude,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Um, again, I think that Dak is great. I think he needs help around him. Um, Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow's great. Maybe a little bit of injury. He could probably do it with not as much help as other people, but he's also had Jamar Chase with him most of the time.
Right.
Jamar Chase is going to get the bag. Once Jamar Chase gets paid, I mean, between Burrow and Chase, you're talking what, 35% of the cap for two players?
Yeah. And hopefully they don't get injured. I mean, hopefully because
Yeah.
Burrow. I mean, Bro has somewhat of an injury problem. Not. I mean, his rookie year tore his ACL or tore his leg apart practically, and then last year he broke something, I think, and was out.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I think my hot take in all of this is if the if depending on what the Cowboys figure out they want to do with Dak Prescott, and again, I'm using the Cowboys. I think the same argument could be made for Tua in Miami. And you know what? Maybe let's do this with Trevor Lawrence. So let me give you a little situation here.
Okay.
Okay, I got you. This is how I want to tie it all with a bow. Trevor Lawrence just got paid $55 million, right?
Yep.
His team right now, as of right now, is the uh, let me give you his offensive players. He has Travis Etienne at running back. He has Christian Kirk and Gabe Davis. Obviously, they went out and signed Gabe Davis.
Right.
Um, Brian Thomas Jr. Okay, so that's their wide receiver room. Evan Ingram, and then I'll just run through their line: Cam Robinson, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brandon Scherf, and Anton Harrison. Now, don't know about you. I don't know any of those people on the line,
Nope. Me neither.
which can't be a good sign, but maybe it's a good thing. Who knows? So my argument with the Cowboys this year is this is what I wanted them to do. So how would this feel if Jacksonville did this? What if Jacksonville didn't sign Trevor Lawrence? What if hypothetically they were able to let him go and that money was off the books,
Mhm.
right? And say they went out and this off season they were like, you know what, we really like Justin Fields. Justin Fields' contract right now, $4.7 million a year. And you know what? He's probably still on his rookie deal. So what if we go all the way down to, I don't even know where Russell Wilson is on this list, by the way. But the Steelers signed Russell Wilson for, I'm
Yes.
pretty sure, dirt cheap, and I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
it's
it's
dirt cheap because
1.2 mil.
yeah, 1.2 mil. Oh yeah, there it is, 1.2 mil because the Broncos are paying his ass huge contract, right? Like those words don't even make sense because of how much money he's getting paid from them, right?
Yeah.
My argument is, would you rather have Trevor Lawrence and 70% of your cap, or would you rather have Russell Wilson at $1.2 million a year
Mhm.
and put a team around him?
Yeah. And do you think Wilson is that quarterback still?
Um, I think that argument could be made not only with Wilson, but also even again with Justin Fields being 4 point. Give me, and again, this is coming from a Dak fan, right?
Hmm.
I would almost say, give me Justin Fields, give me Russell Wilson. Shoot, give me both of them because together they're only making under 6 mil, right?
Yeah.
Give me both of them. Give me the other $49 million this year.
Hmm.
And I mean, oh my God, what could I put around? I mean, we talked about Debo being 20 something. Okay, I can sign two Debos and still have some money left over.
Yeah.
I,
But do you
I
think the Cowboys should do that now? Do you think they should trade Dak and let Lance, because he's at 8.5 for that?
well, so I think the problem is it's too late because free agency's already over, right? I think if they would have done that at the beginning of free
Okay.
agency
I
and
see.
gotten aggressive, like, if they would have gone out in free agency, done that, and signed, you bring in Derrick Henry,
Hmm.
you bring in Calvin Ridley. Now we have CD. You pay CD, right? Because that's going to be the issue, right? We still have to pay CD.
Right.
Um, or I'm trying to think of other big name free agents that signed, but just say you bring in those three people, you know, we don't really know what Trey Lance is, but now you have Trey Lance in a situation where he has CD Lamb, Calvin Ridley, and he can turn around and hand the ball off to Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Or I mean, I don't know if you like Austin Eckler or not, but like the Washington, they signed Eckler,
Yeah, sure. I mean,
and I
you can you
mean,
can you can bring him into. I think he's a little bit up there in age, and if I'm taking one of those up there in age, I'm taking Derrick Henry because he's been the beast his entire career.
that's true.
Um, you know what I mean? But like, I just that's kind of where I was leaning when you're kind of in this weird state with quarterbacks, right? Again, Dak, I love him. I think if he gets the bag, great, good on him. I think I don't think the Cowboys are gonna be a good team with that amount of money tied up in Dak.
Right. They'll have to get lucky with like a Puka Nakua, like
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and in your defense, you got to get lucky on I mean, there's so many things you have to get lucky on whenever there's other options out there that again maybe aren't the best, but if you can free up 50 mil a year, you can put some badass players around people.
I absolutely I agree.
Yeah. So
Alrighty.
I think it's interesting for sure to look at.
Well, I think that was a good little to wrap things up.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
No, I think that was good. I enjoyed that. I definitely think that we should do it again. But yeah, all in all, congrats to Trevor Lawrence for getting his money. I think it'll be interesting to see what their plan is with him making that much money.
yeah, yeah, and the sort of weapons he has, and it'll be interesting with the tough division.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed.
Alrighty, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed, and we look back seeing you next time, whenever next time is. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk to everybody soon.